I'm going to ask one more question. How many of you have questions in the audience? Can I see your hands? Okay, then I'm not going to ask one more question right now. All right, so I saw a hand back here.
Here, I'll go ahead and pass the mic around. If you can state your name and where you're from and give me your business card.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this panel. Really very informative. My name is Harry Tamurian. I'm a realtor. How many realtors in the room? All right. So, typically whenever anybody asks for any form of statistics, you ask for the boots on the ground, right? Well, we're the boots on the ground. We are it. We deal with this issue day in and day out. So let me ask a couple of questions. Let me ask a question. Let me give you a statement and ask a question. In the panel before, the gentleman said something. He said something that said, people live where they want to live. But why do people live where they want to live? It's not because of, I want to live here. It's because either that area offers something or that city offers something that nobody else offers, right? So I'm dealing currently with a situation in Valley Village, which is North Hollywood. And I'll get very simple. There's an elementary school that was taken over by a charter school called Colfax Elementary School. That area in Valley Village is the most sought after area for housing that exists. The house across the street, which is not zoned for Colfax Elementary School, will sell for $75,000 less than the house from across the street. All right? So my question is, when do we hold government accountable for the mistakes that they've done? Manny said a great thing. Look at all these legislations that they've done, right? So when do we hold LAUSD responsible for why is Colfax Elementary School so sought after when the school, which is literally 3 blocks down, is not sought after? Why are the parks in that Colfax Elementary School District maintained so well when the park down the street is not well maintained? Okay, why do people want to live in Burbank and they don't want to live in Glendale?
Thank you, Harry. He's wound up. Good job. Realtors are passionate. Anybody care to answer that? Go ahead, Steph.
I don't know that I have an answer for that, but I would just say amen. And, let me just tell you a personal story. So I have 2 kids. They go to a great neighborhood elementary school that happens to be an LAUSD school. My oldest is in the 5th grade. She's about to become a middle schooler. She is not going to go to the neighborhood middle school because it is not an adequate school for our family, right? You use the term. In our family structure, that middle school is not going to work. So we're going to have to figure out something else. Yes, the communities that have tremendous school systems that are working very effectively for the student bodies, the prices are going up in those neighborhoods. And without carving out affordable housing units that are available to families that need to have a variance of income level to get into those specific communities, our children are being shortchanged. And historically, I'll just say it, there are segregated communities by race and income that have been historically put into place by government practice. And that is something the government needs to own, and that is something that my department is working to own. And we have to address it and be really explicit about the practices that have led to those historic kind of systems.
And I'll throw in an answer that I see in terms of how people choose where they want to live. We speak in generalities because the word out there is millennials want to live in a cool urban place. That's what they want to do until they form a household. They haven't formed households. Then they want to be in a single family home. Then as they start having kids, they want to be by that good school. Then as those kids move out, they stop voting on any school expansions because they've got other things that they want to do. And then they don't want to be near schools because there's a bunch of noisy kids. So it just keeps moving through the system. But I think it's important to provide all those opportunities, really, is what we need to do. And it used to be the old joke, because you drive till you qualify. I'm all the way out in Corona. Now I got to go farther. I got to go to Paris. Gas was $2 a gallon back in those days. It's $4 a gallon now, and who knows how high it'll go. But there's other factors that fit in. So when you start talking about the solution going out to the suburbs again, it's expensive to go out to the suburbs if you have to drive your car 80 miles, 100 miles a day to go to work.
Hi there. Hi, my name's Lee Kramer. I work with Sorrell Associates. We're a public affairs firm, and we work with a bunch of developers and cities. And something that we found working to, try to address the concerns of the community is that a lot of people are opposed to affordable housing until they actually find out what it is. There's a lot of misinformation about what affordable housing is exactly and what it means for the community. And I guess my question to you guys is, how can we have better education about what exactly affordable housing is and what it means?
Well, let me just tell you a little story of a project that, Steve Pontel was the facilitator in the first panel. He just finished, his organization just finished a project in Pasadena. And firstly, this project is permanent supportive housing for homeless families. How many of us want permanent supportive housing for homeless families living next door to them? A big, heavy lift. And so one of the things that we did, we insisted, was before the city took any action on this property, we went out to the community. Before we took any action, not after it was a done deal, but before. And that's really critical. I mean, a lot of the conflict between communities and developers or community and government, timing is a lot. The developer did have site control of the property, but the city didn't commit any, he hasn't purchased it because he was coming to the city to acquire the land. So we met with the council member, a woman named Margaret McAustin, still on Pasadena City Council, and she talked to we brought her to the developer, we brought the service provider. She asked a million questions. We answered a million questions to her satisfaction. We showed her the need. We showed her what affordable housing is. And then she called a community meeting, and she said, thank you for coming. We really value your input, but I want you to know I support this project. And that's how that project happened. And in the end, it took a little bit of trust on the community side, but that particular project is nicer than all the properties surrounding it, including the people who said it's going to ruin my property value. I feel like we now should send a letter over to them to ask them to please fix up their units a little bit because they're lowering our property value. But doing a genuine outreach is really important to build trust. We're not trying to sneak things. I mean, the best projects are not snuck into communities, but they're worked together, negotiated together, and we built that project. We did not use a density bonus on that site, even though we could have. So we gave up some density, but the project happened, and it was a real compromise, and there were no protests, there were no demonstrations. It was very, very positive. So 62 people now moved in October. They're no longer homeless, including 36 children.
Yeah,
Thanks, Bill.
I'll say I actually won more design awards for affordable communities than I have for market-rated communities. And you'll find in the affordable side, if you can get the neighbors to go visit another affordable community to see, the people in an affordable community take better care of that community than the Class C market rate that, as Bill was saying, is across the street. There's more trash, garbage, issues in those Class C than there is in any affordable community.
Thank you both. Sandy, I'd like you to tell us if Paul Caress could have gotten that done.
It's difficult. It would be very difficult.
Tell us how we should educate folks more and what should be the first steps if they come into the neighborhood with a project.
I think, number one, a visit to an affordable housing complex would be, number one, visual and certainly worth discussion. I think that would be the first step. You've got to involve the neighborhood no matter what neighborhood it is. People want to know, they're curious, and they need to be educated.
Thanks.
Just one comment on that
ahead,
point. I agree that it's great when the cities or developers partner with local communities to look at projects in advance to get good design and good approval. But we also need to be moving away from the idea that every new housing project requires years of discussion. We don't have a furniture shortage because we don't have weird 3 different sets of furniture commissions that you have to go to build furniture. We don't have clothing shortages because we don't do that for clothing. We don't have food shortages, although we do have obviously hunger and food insecurity. And so really we need to work with people to accept housing as a general thing and then change the state and local laws so that you can build by right with good standards rather than doing this.
We're going to hold on to that one. Thank you, Mark.
Yes, my name is Linda Hyman. I am a realtor, but my background before that, for 15 years, I was a social worker.
Put your mic a little bit closer.
I'm a realtor for Adeo Realty, and before that I was for over 15 years a social worker, and I worked myself in Skid Row with a Weingart, and so I'm very familiar with the homeless population and many of the issues. One of my questions is, I grew up in LA and I moved to the Valley when I did because I could buy more for my money. There are numerous houses that have large lots of over an acre that I could see as one of the solutions. If we could build multiple units, we could build guest houses that could be rented out, that could have some kind of multi-unit type of situation, because there is now, my understanding, they're not allowed to have guest houses. So I think that would be part of the solution. And in Northridge, Reseda, North Hills, there's numerous lots that cannot be built on.
Thank you. I'm not sure if that was a question, but that was more of a statement.
Question would be when there could be better zoning so we could build an actual person that has a large lot, that has an acre that could build onto it, could help solve some of the problem.
Thank you.
Just a little bit of background on second units, because you mentioned you could build a guest house. That would be an example of a second unit. The main reasons why, according to my research, why somebody builds a second unit is because they either need the income or they need the space. And a lot of times, folks who are in estate areas, who are those who are most concerned about second units, they and their neighbors actually aren't the ones who are actually going to build a second unit, because they neither need the space nor they need the income. So oftentimes it happens in smaller, in areas that are not the estate areas. The County of Los Angeles is getting ready to roll out a pilot program, and that is where they're trying to go. The second step is they already have a fairly progressive second unit ordinance, but they're trying to see how can those second units become used for affordable housing. And so what they are looking to do is to provide below market rate construction loan to the homeowner, because that's the biggest reason why people can't build a second unit, because they can't get financing for it. So they'll provide this below market rate financing to build a second unit as a construction loan, and with the agreement that that homeowner will rent it to a Section 8 household for a certain period of time, 5 years or 10 years, something like that. Once they rent the unit, then they can refinance the whole house and take it out. So that's a way to get affordable housing, and they're getting ready to roll out this pilot, and I'm excited to see how that's going to work.
Great.
And that's
I'd like to get some feedback. There's a measure that is going to be on the City of Los Angeles ballot March of 2017, and it's going to impose, if it's approved, a moratorium for 2 years for any project that is a plan amendment type project with 10 units or more, I believe. So what are your thoughts on moratoriums, and what are your thoughts specifically on that ballot measure?
I'm absolutely against it. I mean, it's just another delay. Nothing's going to change. You still need the housing. And one of the things that's going to pop up, if that's on the ballot and we're talking about 2 years, what you're going to do is push all that housing to back 2 years and have it open in the middle of our next recession. And that's not going to be any good. Nobody's going to build it then. So, I mean, I think we are in a cycle, and everything I'm hearing, we're probably 18, maybe even 19 if we're lucky, that things slow down again. But if you're building in that cycle and don't have the affordable housing built now, it's not going to be built then.
Sandy is chopping at the bits, but Barbara has been reaching up so high to the sky. I'm not sure who to go with first. Can you make sure you get the microphone? Is that okay, Sandy?
Sure.
Okay, great.
The point I wanted to make earlier had to do with one tool that communities can use, and I don't know if you have used it, in terms of getting affordable housing incorporated into construction projects, has to do with those projects that are seeking a zone change or community plan change. We have advocated in our community, when there's a large project, they seek to rezone light industrial land for housing, whatever, that's when we go in as a community and say, we want a senior housing unit in there. We want a certain number of units. I know Bonin and the West LA community just did that on the Martin Cadillac project. I know we did that on the Kasdan project with Koretz's office, and that's an easy tool. In terms of clarifying the Neighborhood Integrity Initiative, it is my understanding, and I haven't read it in a while, that affordable housing projects are exempt, and that it is not a moratorium for 2 years on most construction. It is only for those projects that seek to have a zone and community plan change, i.e., those projects that the community believes are spot zoning and are being given out to political friends of council members or people well connected.
Okay,
So-
Barbara, let me just clarify something on that too. I think in law there's supposed to be an update in the community plans every 5 years, but in reality that is not happening.
Right.
So I think what's happening is people are having to go to the plan amendment process because the plans have not been updated.
That's true to some degree, but likewise the communities feel that it's not our fault the plans were not updated, and the council has now assigned dollars and staffing through the council to get all the plans done within a 10-year period. So, but because the plans aren't done, communities feel overwhelmed with people who want to alter the general plans and community plans.
Great. Sandy, do you think the neighborhood groups that you hang out with would be supportive of the council members and the supervisors staying in line with the laws that do require updates every 5 years? Would that be something that the neighborhood groups could support?
We definitely support it. The problem is that there just isn't money there to maintain the updating of the plans, but we do support it. We don't want to work with a plan that's from the late 80s and early 90s. It's way outdated. On the other hand, we're not willing to just have people who buy a piece of property and say, this is what the plan says I can do, but I don't want to do anything that it says. I want to do much more than that. Right. That's where you run into a problem with the neighborhood.
Thank you, Sandy. Mark, you had your hand up, and I see a hand out here. I'm not sure who's going to get that mic next.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Manny's opposition to the Neighborhood Integrity Initiative. The City of LA passed Proposition JJJ just recently, so there will be mandatory affordable housing and also labor standards for any project that gets a zone change. The NII will be 2-year moratorium on zone changes and a permanent ban on general plan amendments. And it just happens in recent years we've had a very big uptrend in projects seeking that because it's one of the only ways to get a sufficient amount of housing built. Over 60% of the units proposed last year in the city of LA required one of those two different types of changes. And so if we stop those, essentially we're essentially knocking off most of our new housing. And that new housing, I really want to stress, is built on parking lots, abandoned factories. It displaces no one. So you get like 1,000 new units to every 1 unit lost for zone change, usually for general plan amendment projects. If you don't allow people to do that, they're going to buy old rent-stabilized apartments, knock them down, do Ellis Acts. We're going to actually have much more displacement to get the same amount of housing. So I really think this is a sort of disastrous example of ballot box planning. It's kind of the last gasp of the old slow growth movement in the city of LA. I hope we defeat it soundly and move on to actually providing enough housing for the people.
Feel your passion over there. All right, those who are in the audience, I'm going to ask you to ask a question, not make a long statement. And I say that because my good friend William has a microphone in his hand.
It's on. Mr. Wilson, but I've gone to several meetings and I can make my statements in 2 minutes or less, 1 minute or less if necessary.
You've already exceeded 20 seconds.
That's all right. The first question is for Stephanie.
Yes.
You have a wonderful brochure with some great services. I know that there are hundreds of services from nonprofits that work with your department that you refer people to. What I have not been able to find in the last 3 weeks of searching the internet is a list of all available resources to our PWAs. PWAs, that's an acronym you may not be familiar with. It's my new name, People Without Addresses, because it's the only difference between them and me. Mm-hmm. Okay? So these PWAs that are out there have services available to them. They don't know the services are available to them. The neighborhood councils have homeless liaisons. The homeless liaisons don't know the services that are available out there to take to the people in their community. Mm-hmm. So my question is there someone who is working on a comprehensive list of services, nonprofits, churches, anybody, anywhere that does anything to help, like Lions Clubs help with getting people eyeglasses, for example? I mean, there's so much out there, but the PWAs don't know where to find it, and the neighborhood councils and the other Rotary clubs, any organization.
I promise you, I didn't turn those lights off. That wasn't me. Go ahead. Stephanie's going to answer that question. Thank you.
So the preeminent resource that I would direct you to is the coordinated entry system. I don't know if you've heard of that, but the coordinated entry system is a network of region-based coordinators that are available for any homeless service provider, homeless individual, homeless family member, single adult, who needs a service. They can contact the regional coordinated entry system individual and then develop a plan for all of the resources that they are seeking. You know that there are so many service providers offering all kinds of different things, and it is about the comprehensive network of delineating those so that people don't have to call a phone number, to get in a line, to wait for someone to answer their questions that are specific to them. You're saying, where's the comprehensive resource directory for all of us? So the terrible answer that's short is 211 is an immediate thing to contact for the County of LA services. The better answer, the more specific answer for now, is the coordinated entry system, which the County of LA and the City of LA and LAHSA, the LA Homeless Services Authority, have all committed to emboldening and making better. That's the second best answer. And then the third best answer is continually reaching out to people that are kind of in the know and can make connections for you. So I would love to give you my business card and connect with you after this.
Great. We are almost out of time. I'm going to go around to each of the panelists and ask them to give us one actionable item that we realistically can follow up on out of your comments, if you can do that.
Pay the neighborhood a visit.
How much?
I'm going to say something nerdy. I'm going to say participatory research. I'm not going to ask you to write a paper, but I might ask you to write a letter. Here's what I suggest. So in public health school, they teach you about windshield surveys. Drive through 2 different communities, one that's affluent and one that's not, and take a survey with your own 2 eyes about what you see in that community. Broken sidewalks, access to parks, adequate schools, libraries that are in good condition, and make a mental note of that, okay? So take a windshield survey. You're gonna see the disparities that we see in our reports, but then you can turn it into a story about how you drove through X neighborhood and Y neighborhood, and here's what you saw, and send that to people that can make changes. Secondly, please participate in the homeless count. That is how city and county will decide where to invest those dollars to build units for homeless individuals. So please participate in that. It is one night. It is kind of in the dark. You will be teamed up with a partner, do not worry. But you will walk a census tract, which is not that big. It takes about an hour and a half to take a tally of the homeless people that are on the streets, in cars. And there's ways for LAHSA to do the unsheltered or the sheltered count. But we really need to know who is on the streets, where they are concentrated, so that we can send resources where they need.
I think one of the things that's really important is to know the right terminology and say things that aren't going to offend somebody. And because of my passion about doing age-qualified 55-plus housing, I want to correct something that Steve said earlier. Remember when he said aging in place? How many of you guys have heard of aging in place? The only 2 things that should age in place are red wine and blue cheese. I don't want to age in place. So you have to just learn how to say the right thing, because I want to thrive in place. I want to live in place. I want to have fun in place. I don't want to age in place. So there's similar things when you're talking to neighborhood groups that you want to learn how to say the right thing so you don't mislead them and you don't say something that isn't really what's going to happen in the future.
I thought they were talking about Asians in place, but anyway. I really like this question because people do want to help. They do want to address this issue. And so in Pasadena, one of the things that we did was we joined together with a nonprofit, with a bank, with the county, and with an art school to develop a program called realchangemovement.org. It's a public education campaign. It's called realchangemovement.org. And it's been very successful. It's getting ready to launch into downtown Los Angeles. Long Beach is looking at it. Some of the other cities, it's already opened in Palm Beach, West Palm Beach, Florida, of all other places. But it's a public education campaign on homelessness. Get educated about homelessness, find out what works, what doesn't work, find out how you can help, find out where resources are, find out your local homeless count. And it also has repurposed parking meters that are public donation stations. And so businesses can sponsor the meters, they can locate a meter on their site, and individuals could make contributions, coins and credit cards and debit cards. So realchangemovement.org, it's spreading, and it's a way for everybody and anybody to help to participate in the solution for PWAs. I like that.
I would suggest going to meet with your local elected official, whether that's a city council or state assembly or senate or neighborhood council or whatever, with a few friends and just saying, we need more housing, we like more housing for our friends, for our family, for ourselves, for our neighbors. That helps them know there's two sides out there and people are willing to have a voice for housing. And I think that can help change the political dynamic and help solve this problem.
Okay, we're almost out of time. I just wanted to give you an invitation for a workforce housing forum that's going to take place February the 8th, 2017. The Southland Regional Association of Realtors, BizFed, and the Valley Economic Alliance are all sponsoring it together. I'm going to encourage and invite all of you to come and participate in that and bring your friends, because we certainly need to focus on workforce housing. With that, I want to thank my good friend David Fleming, who is the brainchild of BizFed. Thank you, buddy. You're awesome. And I come back, call up our... Yeah! All right. Well, this young lady over here, Helen Hua, is responsible for all the hard work behind the scenes. So how about a hand for her?
Thank you, Mel. So what we do now is that we go back, digest all the information, and there was plenty today, and we will put together a white paper type of report that will come back with actionable goals, and that's what we're all about, the whole trifecta, as I mentioned earlier, of the BizFed universe. But one of the main things that at least I'm taking away is just being a lot more organized, and a big part of it is each of us getting more educated, go to our city council, going to planning commission meetings, but also educating others. Take the information that you learned today and go talk to your neighbor, your coworker, and get them involved and care more about housing. We are 3.5 million short across the state. This is a report that came out from McKinsey Global Institute. So we have a lot of work to do. So we need to just be better organized, but first getting educated. And the other is we need to be thoughtful in our organization and reaching out to those that may be on the opposite side of the issue. So that's why today we wanted to have a diverse group of experts. And actually we reached out to all the neighborhood councils in the LA area, and we received quite a bit of response. They were very happy that we were able to connect with them, and they want to keep in touch with us. So these are the types of things that we just need to be more thoughtful about and just be very organized and have our eye on the prize, basically. So just a few other things. Can we change the slide? So our forum is a follow-up to the SCAG Housing Summit, as you heard earlier, and we're a lead up to the California Economic Summit. I will be there next month. If you join, reach out to me and maybe we can meet up in Sacramento. So here's some information. You can go to caeconomy.org to register, and it's a 2-day summit up in Sacramento. And of course, we have a bright future ahead for the Institute. Keep posted on our 2017 forums. We host forums every quarter, and the next one for sure that we're doing is sometime in spring, and it'll be a tech forum or the Innovative Economy Forum. So we're still working on the program, but we're very excited about that. And so thank you very much for coming out today. I know you stayed a little bit longer. Both our forums, very impassioned opinions all around, but we can tell these are very important topics, which is why people stay around. So thank you again so much. And if we can take a photo, and MC, Mike, and David, and our Southland Regional Association of Realtors, and I believe Teresa left, but if you can stay to take a photo, and we are done. Thank you so much.